Okay, hi, welcome back everyone from spring break. And I hope you have been perusing our assignment week on the course materials regarding the videos, which are really critical, important to watch all the way through, as well as some of the documents I've given you for reading. We are now shifting from what we would call digital illustration, digital imaging, as you did with your hyperrealism. And in the hyperrealism, we really covered the photo touching tools, and we'll continue to work in Photoshop with tools as well, all the way through the semester. And often I cover tools when I see in your work that you will need that particular tool. So now what we're doing is we're moving forward into the other digital media formats that are so widely needed, specifically using Photoshop. And there are many programs that are used in web design, which is what we're working on for the next few weeks, is in web design. And that is vector programs such as Illustrator. And I highly recommend understanding and learning that program as well, because that is where you do your vector designs, your logos, your graphic design, a great deal. And as well as digital illustration, also in Illustrator. But our focus right now is going to be understanding how incredible Photoshop is used for web design. Because a lot of the pictures that you see, I would say would be the majority are images that are in Photoshop or manipulated in Photoshop or cropped or enhanced in Photoshop. And so we will continue to do that as well. So let's get started. And what's important to know is that each week I will be doing these tutorials, and I'll be doing it sooner than I did this week because I really wanted you to be reading and watching those videos that were on the course materials page. Critically important, which is why I leave them there for you to really go through all of them. So now what we're going to be doing is, as I said, you're working with the same sustainable theme, and you're also keeping the assets that you had collected through your hyperrealism, because we're going to be utilizing them with additional photos as well into the composite. So today this video is just to get started and to just cover some of the tools for layout and any other tools that I might really want to be utilizing as well. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. And please always remember, if you have questions to email me. And if you're having any trouble with software regarding Photoshop or WordPress or the assignment, we certainly can schedule a Zoom meeting. That is one of the best things to be able to be convenient for everyone and to really answer your question and troubleshoot anything that you may have. So this week you were sketching your mock-up for the web design class. So we'll go back to that as well. And we opened up the file in Photoshop. As you can see, as I mentioned to you in one file document about image size. In image size, you were setting your document to be 2560 by 1600 and working with 4 artboard boards. Now you may not have created the 2 artboards, but it's important to know that I'm going to be showing that to you in this video. So because we are web, we are working with the resolution of 72 dpi. So that dramatically changes. And in print, it would be 300. But we can be working in the 72 dpi. And sometimes people do work in high resolution for web because they may be taking their layouts to print. That is not going to be the case for us. So you can use the 72 dpi. Because remember, even if you created a 300 dpi Photoshop file, if you exported it, which is right up here, if you did an export let me cancel that. If you did an export for web right here, save for web, that automatically compresses it to 72 dpi. You can toggle it a little bit once you get in there, but it will be set to do the lower resolution because they know, you don't want 300 dpi for the web, and so that's why you can set your files for the assignment for this week for the web layout to 72 dpi. So again, we've set this up for image size 2560 by 1600. And what you want to do is to be sure to bring in your sketches. Now remember, there's two ways, as you recall from the Hyper, there's two ways to bring in your photos. You can either drag and drop it from the tab, like up here, like this, or you can use File, Place. Place Embedded because, your pictures are probably low resolution, and except for the hyperrealism, that would be good quality. And the difference between embedded and linked is if you were working in a real studio, you might be bringing in very high resolution photos, and that would bog down your Photoshop document. So you would bring them in as a linked document. And the value of that is that you can use a placeholder, something that maybe is not completed, and maybe your colleague, your other coworker is working on that file. And so when you open it up again, if your file is a place linked, it will be updated to show the new revisions. So that's the value of place linked, is if you know you're still working on some of the contents of your imported images, when you open it up, it will look at the newly revised one because it is linked. It is not embedded. Embedded is embedded. It's in there. And if you make any changes to it, you'll have to re-import it. So just some minor details. So bringing in, as I have here, let me zoom out to show you where I am. And now I did, the other thing that you were mentioning that we were talking about in the assignment this week is to go to your sustainable theme organization, and you can use their header and you can use their footer. So I haven't brought the footer in yet, but I did bring in the header. And as you know from the documents that are on that page, a header is the banner real estate on the very top. It's where most of all the menus and navigational menu will be situated. And as you know, the most important real estate on a web page is the upper left-hand corner. So that's why the title goes there, and there's the menu. And so this, my sustainable theme is about mindfulness. So I have one of my students' work that they had done in their hyperrealism class, Photoshop class, digital imaging, I should say. They did this on mindfulness, and this is their composite, which came out really nice, utilizing multiple pictures and then incorporating them into the layout. So let us get started. So I did lay down the header from the organization, and I'm going to redesign their homepage to promote an upcoming mindfulness event. As your hyperrealism can be for an event, it could be for a cause, a mission, a statement about any data points that you may want to talk about as far as mindfulness is. And the thing to remember about web design is that you can easily do images that are like this, which are just mock-up images. And the important thing, and remember, you do not need the Shift key. I just did a Control-T to scale this. So Control-T, and that's, if you don't remember that, that's under here, Edit, Free Transform, Control-T. So when you do Control-T, you do not need the shift key as long as you're at the handles. So you can stretch your sketch out to whatever size it's going to be. And you can use that as a guide, or you can just look at it on a piece of paper. That's up to you. But you can certainly place it in any particular way. And so I have it here on my layers. And so web designs are often initially just first sketched, but then you can also bring it in as a wireframe. So this is another one where you can, depending on how you would like to work, if you were working for a client, you would do a sketch first, maybe in the meeting when you're being consulted with the client, a sketch, but then you would go back and probably make a wireframe like I have done. And you can do this in many programs: Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD, Sketch is one, another software program for building web pages, prototyping, I should say, and or Illustrator. You can also use Illustrator to create these files. So whichever way you would like to use them, you can bring them in, and you can scale them, because I'm not really going to be using these images, so I'm not concerned about the resolution. As long as I can see what I'm looking at, you can scale it as big as you would like. So that's something that's important to remember in regards to that, because it's just something as a guide to be able to make big enough that you want to use for the picture, for the layout, for the web design layout. So you can see I'm getting very big here because I want it to be about the size of what I want here. And so I'm going to be using these ones as my, for my artboard. So that is what I'm doing right now, is just getting it to fit. And as you can see how I'm doing this, it is very manual, and this is good. Okay, and we're going to talk a lot about the different things that you use Photoshop for in the context of your design. And so, so you can see the 3 or the 2, however one I want to be able to use. Or again, you can also use your sketch. It just depends on what you have done for the assignment. So now let's talk about the artboard. So the artboard, and again, remember, always save every 30 seconds. So the artboard is right here. And there are a couple of ways you can make an artboard. So you see on this artboard, I have these images. And the only way you get this artboard is if you went to File, New, and you went to Web. And if there's any artboards here, as you can see artboards, if you toggled artboards, if it may not have been toggled on, but you can toggle it on and it will make it right away. The other way to do it is if you have the tool here, on the layer. The other way to make an artboard in Photoshop is mouse down. You can do it here. You can also do it right here. Then, now this is a fairly new tool in Photoshop. So it has become a viable tool because people do design multiple pages. And so therefore you can make multiple pages in Photoshop as you can in Illustrator. But before, you never could do that. It was only one page only, and that was it. Now you can make multiple pages, and it's because of the artboard. So the other way, there's another way to do an artboard, which I found interesting when they added this new tool was right down here. So under the Move tool, which is interesting that it puts it there. So it's an Artboard tool. And when you create it, it gives you the ability to put it above or behind, or to the right or the left. So I'm going to be making it become my 4 artboards. And as you can see, each one has like a folder in each of the boards. So that is how I did my artboard there. And so this is going to be scrolling all the way so that I can utilize this in the other artboard. So I could go like this. I could come up here. I could right click, duplicate this layer, and then I can drag and drop it into the second one. And then I can move this. Let's see here. I am here. This is my line. Now remember, you see, I want to remember where that line is. Let me move this up. I want to remember where this line is. So that's why we use our rulers. Rulers are critical to have open. And that's under View, Show Rulers, right here. Toggle that on. And when you mouse down on your ruler, now this is why we're covering web design in here, you want to use it as a guide. Mouse down, and I want to use this as a guide. So that's where that is, so that when I'm moving this up, I can kind of position it right there with the envelope, as you can see. So that's very helpful to know how you can build your artboards versus making one long Photoshop file. And so this will be a lot better for your ePortfolio because you will have separate JPEGs to represent the long scroll. And remember, this is for the workstation. We'll get into the responsive later, but this is how, because the responsive, you can probably do it in one document simply because it's a smaller file. But the important part is that you see how I'm doing this using the guide. So again, I'm going to use the guides here for this one. So that's where that page is. And then again, right click, duplicate my sketch to put in the next one. And so now I'm going to move this up so that it feels like it's right there. It's right here and right about there. Yeah. Yep, just about there. Yeah, because I think the board cuts it on this. So I could actually go like this. That would probably be better. So then again, now we're getting, and I think that is my end. Yeah, that is my end. Let's bring that back up. There we go. And so now this bottom part will be my footer. And again, you can use the footer from your organization, or you can even design your own. So again, even though I have commented about the footer and header being utilized from the existing website, you're more than welcome to design your own. No one's going to hold you back from creating something new. So that is how we use our artboard. And so at this point now I can turn some of these off and not turn the artboard off, but turn the images off. So let's do that. And so now I only need my header in the top one, and then the footer will go on the bottom one. And so then I can decide upon, I can move this behind here, turn it on, and I can decide where I want to incorporate my hyperrealism picture. So what I meant about the cropping aspect of it, because your hyperrealism is of higher resolution, you really can bring it in very big. So I scaled this down, and I'm just going to bring this back up to the original size. So you can have this so that the ability to utilize your hyperrealism can be something as a pictorial asset. You can crop it, you can make it, bring it in big, and then you can scale it down, because the beauty about web design compared to print design is that if you come up here to view under 100%, if it looks okay to you 100%, then you can fly with the resolution because you're looking at it as if it's a web. But do remember, images do get scaled bigger because it's responsive design in the world. So depending on the person's computer, how big and how quality oriented your files are, the resolution, how big you really can get it to be scaled, because that's important to remember, that it will be responsive, the design of your web page, and that is the case for everything built today, or at least it should be. And so if the monitor is very large that the user has, you can't control that. It's not going to be as great control of resolution, but you can control it in the CSS and the code, meaning that you can write code that says, I recognize this display to be 3000, and therefore if it is 3000 in size, then choose this picture. So you can do that, which is how you see really high resolution on really big monitors to get. So as far as Photoshop is concerned, what we want to do is to begin to think about how we are going to be utilizing the space of your layout, depending on what you want to see in regards to the actual layout. So this is the original. So now I could come up here and we can make boxes. So again, you can make a box just like this, a frame tool. And as you can see how you can drop in pictures right into there. So, and it's just a box, as you notice. So let's try that. We put this in, and let's take a picture like this, and there you have it, right? That went right into there, and you can actually probably move this around. Oh, no, there it is. Don't want to move that around. I want to use, not this one, but here. And locking it would be probably preferable, because you see right here, it's moving it around as it is. So that's one way that you can utilize the box as it is. Now, interesting enough, they have the circle there. So let's do the circle. See there, and it does take the circle like that. And then if I bring the box in, drop the box into there, and let's bring this up and take it so that it drops it in. Oops. Always have to be careful about where your layers are. So I'm going to delete this. There we go. And let's see if we have, so that the frame tool creates a placeholder for frames for images, as you can see, and how you can be able to move that. So that tool is very effective to be able to make a box here. And that's right away makes it, it adds it. If you're on that layer, remember, I'm on the layer. I have that layer toggled. And if I wanted to make a box, then I would make that box like this, and then it makes a mask is what it does. So that's a new tool as well. So you see, it's a little tricky on how I was using it. You have to be sure that you're on the photo that you want. And then, like, for instance, if I want this statement, then I would go after the statement as such. And then that way I have this as my design, and I can move this around to be where I want to place that for the header that I'm going to be utilizing. So I'm going to put this behind. As you can see, you can drag and drop your layers up and down. And again, you don't always have to select your layer. You can actually select the object in the file here to be able to make it be in the position that you want it to be. So if I wanted to have a banner here, that's a very good tool for making banners, that's for sure. Interesting enough, it is within the cup. And so if we double click this, that is where we want to put the circle. And that circle may be the case with the edges on there. And it's where the marching ants are. If you watch that, if you roll over, the marching ants would be in that circle. And so it's clicking to the marching ants on there. So let's back this up. I'm going to take this away just to go through a couple of tools with you to show you how to go about. And Photoshop does have some nice undos, which is great. So that's one tool as well. And again, you'll be bringing in your photographs for the other artboards as you begin to bring them in. And so that's something that you can add to. And the lines here, what you can do is add text. So if we were to utilize the text tool, let's cover the text tool as well as some other tools regarding cropping and so forth. So you saw how that automatic frame tool does it with the picture itself. Now that was a drag and drop, as you notice. So it's interesting to see that you can drag and drop it as well, or be on the layer as I did and make the box as well. And this one is up here called the Marquee Tool. And so that can make a circle if you want to make a circle, as you saw with that other one as well on there. And so again, to make a circle coming from the center, you need your Shift key down and Alt, and then it will make a perfect circle from the center out. And on that situation, this is where you can begin to do what we call cropping with this marquee. Now the marquee up here, let's do this again. So it's the tool that's right here. If you mouse down, you get the rectangle, elliptical, and singular. And do be sure that you have the advanced toolbar, as we said before in the early videos, about making sure that if you hit the dots, you for the toolbar here, you want to be sure that you have, see how sticky that is, you want to be sure that you have advanced. You want all the tools to be in there. And so, so with this marquee, you can actually come up here to the very, very top, And this is how you can make perfect thumbnails. So for instance, let's turn this off and say I want to make thumbnails utilizing my sketch design. So you can come in here and you can go, okay, let me get my window info, and I'm going to make a box for these rectangles that I have. And notice that I am utilizing the X and Y units here. And so this is 6x4 or 6x3. And so that is now the size that I want it to be. So you can come up here and you can say fixed. And so I can now do a fixed dimension. And that would be the size that was in that rectangle. So I think it was 6.5. Let's see. Let's do this again. Oh. And so that's why it's important to know. And you can, let's see, panel options. You can actual color, document size. You can do the different points. This is the info panel, document size, measurement, scale. You can turn things on for each size, document sizes, document dimensions, and we want it to be RGB. There we go. And so now, and you want to take the fixed off, so it's normal. And here I'm going to make it again. So now you see the height. So it's a good idea to be able to, now you could do this, which is, so you can make a fixed box. So for instance, if you wanted to make square thumbnails, such as this, you can come up here to the marquee and you can say fixed, and you can say 200 by tab 200. And it will now, wherever it stops, it's going to give you the size that you need. So now this looks like this is in inches, 2.7 versus pixels. And so to change that preference, you would have to come up here to edit, preferences, and do grid units and rulers. Let's take a look at that. See, the rulers are in, let's do pixels and points, column size. Let's see if this will be good. And now, see there, now it's 200. And let's go back to this. Oops, you have to get the fixed off. Turn the fixed off. There we go. You see, now I just changed it to pixels. So do remember that, you know, this program does inches and it does pixels. It does it. You produce for print or you produce for web. So now I know my square is 464, and you might want to write this down. 464 by 252. So when I Control D to get rid of those marching ants. So if I come up here to fixed, I can say the width is 464 by 252. And so there, now I have it. And you see now, wherever I crop, if I wanted to make an image here on the poster, I can be able to use my marquee because it can be fixed. And so if I wanted to use one of these images from my hyperrealism, such as this, and Control D, remember, Control D is the way to get rid of your marching ants. And again, if I wanted to move this around, you hover over the marching ants, Hover over the marquee and you'll see a white arrow. That white arrow lets you move that around so that if I wanted to get something from my source, could be your hyperrealism, it could be anything that I want to use in the picture. You can move it around with that white arrow and with the marquee toggled on, and it does not crop it. So I'm just going to take this. So now, say I want this as one of the photos. What you have to be sure to do is I may want a lot of photos from my hyperrealism, so you don't want to keep re-importing it. So just right-click and duplicate. And always be sure that you have a backup, which I always kind of lay this into the bottom here. Let's get that down. Oops. So you can be sure that you have a duplicate somewhere. And so I'm going to make a duplicate of this and bring it down so that I can always pull it up as it's doing right there, which is interesting. Just keep it down and just turn it off. So here, let's go back to where we were. I want to get that marquee on this one, and I'm going to show you how you can be able to just utilize it. Again, hover for that white arrow. And then, so if I want to crop this, there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, you can just come up here and go up to edit and go copy, Control D, and then you can say paste in place. And so now I have my square, and that's really the best way to get your picture versus cropping the big one. Just do copy paste and it automatically makes another layer for you. So this is how we're beginning to bring in the layout of the web page. And so now I'm going to bring this down and I want to make a copy. So this is an Alt key, just to let you see what I've just done. I know I'm going to get some other photos that maybe I don't have yet. And so I'm just going to make my duplication here. And also I'm going to, you can turn this off. I'm going to make this, I want to pick this up. So let's pick this up again, go to the layer, and you can pick this up like so. Whoop. See, now I have my fixed marquee. So I want to turn that off so I can make a unique marquee like this. And I do want this, but I don't want it where it is. So I'm going to come up here to copy and then paste in place. And so now I have a duplicate, and now I can make this to become the all white. So let's fill this up with white. So you could do fill. I do that a lot on here. Whoops. And then you can also, remember, you can use your paint bucket. Paint bucket is right here, right above or below the gradient. And then I can fill the whole background on that. Not on this one. I wanted to do it on, yeah, this is correct. Because this is, I still have my sketch, which is behind here. So now I have the ability to bring that up, and then I have now the ability to make this be separate. And I'm going to just put this someplace else. And because you are your very own client, you can change things around. Obviously, when you work with a client, you're locked into that sketch. You're locked into that wireframe. Unless you want to make an iteration and bring to the team or your next meeting a change, which is very doable. And so that's why it's important to be able to, you know, if you find a solution and you think it's better, don't forget, you know, make a point to show people. So right now you see I have white all over this. So what you can do is you can use your magic eraser. The magic eraser is great because it basically understands what you don't want. And so it just goes all the way around it. And it makes it pretty clean. As you can see, this is very nicely cleaned up. A little bit of the white there. But you can utilize this in everywhere. And it is wherever the white is, it will make it be, you can be able to clean it up like that. So that's important to remember that and that's why it is called the magic eraser. And so, often you don't see things because it's on top of white. And then you realize, oh, I still have some white left to do, but it does clean up a pretty good job. I think just one of that is what we need to get rid of. There we go. And you see how it blended it right there. So then fit in screen again. Okay. So now, as you can see, we're moving into the design aspect and utilizing as much tools as possible. Again, Control T for this on this particular, And you don't need the Shift key, so you can not worry about that. And so when you do scale things up, it's either a double click to accept it, or it's a check above here, as you'll see if you're looking around at your dashboard. So now you see I am redesigning this, and I will be, so my sustainable theme is mindfulness. And so I'm creating a new page, which can be the page for your event, or a home page, or getting an informational page about facts and data and things of that sort. It really is up to your design. So I just want to cover what we have done today, which is talking about the aspect of when you create a new, which is what you've been working on this week, after perusing all the videos and the documents, making it the 1260. Now it's changed because of the Artboard on here. And so this is where we want to do new for web and toggle on the Artboard so that you do have that. That's one that is not the one that we have set. We are set under image size. We are set with the 2560. And the 600 is because we've added the artboards. So it looks at the whole document, which includes the artboards. So again, you can make an artboard as such, but I do recommend you can do it through the mouse down over here, but you really have more control of where it goes if you use your move tool on the artboard there. So that's important to remember that. And the other thing was using the marquee for making your thumbnails, perfect thumbnails that you can crop. So that will save the measurement that you want for your thumbnails, as they say. And don't forget your info window that gives you the measurement of your grid that you want, or thumbnail that you want. And then also remember your preferences. Now on a Mac, it's under, it'll say Photoshop preferences. For the PCs, it's under edit, under preferences, and your units. You want to change your units so that it's pixel dimension versus inches, because it might be in inches since your last project was in inches. And so make your artboards, and you also want to be laying down your sketch as a guide, bring in your hyperrealism piece, and bring in all the photos that you want. And as far as the text tool is concerned, the good news is that the text tool will give you Latin. So you do not, so for instance, if I use a text tool, it automatically makes Latin for me. So let me just get this to be bigger so you can see this. And unfortunately, the color of the type is white, so you want to be sure to. And so you can use Latin if you want to be able to make, the text tool for you. And so the type tool that is here, vertical and so forth, it's not always a good idea in design to do vertical type. Once in a while we use it. I've seen it a couple of times, but it's not that it really does well in design. So you can place Latin inside of your copy so that you don't have to be worrying about what language. But again, you can also put taking language from the website as well to utilize if that's what you want, or titles and so forth. So for the type tool, so we can just be sure, because you will be using the type tool quite a bit. Remember that you have things that are titles in caps often, and then you have your and you can lock things, don't forget. Like I want to lock this background so it doesn't keep moving when because my type is very thin. There we go. You often have titles, and then you have sub tags. So do remember about your graphic design, sub tags are often upper and lowercase. Subtext such as credits, however you want to identify that, and it can be smaller, of course. And remember, you do have a type tool, and that is right here under properties. So you can highlight with the type. Just remember, you have to select within it, and then you can come up here and change the dimensions of the type, which is up here. There's a couple of like properties. Here's the properties as we were talking about, but you also have the properties on the horizontal bar. Now, if you do not see this horizontal bar, it is because you must be sure to do Window Workspace Essentials on there. So let me just show you that. Let me get out of my type tool. So that's under Windows Essentials right here. And then that will pop up that horizontal menu. So again, in order to change this text, you have to select all of it. So that's important to remember. It's not just selecting within it. You have to select you have to select all. So let me get this down. And so do remember about your text and your types as far as making it as professional as possible. Okay, I will continue to utilize this site for our next video as we continue getting the layout to match your sketch, your wireframe, and I will be posting the new assignment. For your first mock-up and sketch, we'll be posting it in the discussion board and so forth, but I will be launching the new week, which will be on Sunday. So have a great weekend, and I will see you soon.